You are now tuned into the Anxious Ambition podcast, where you'll be hearing raw and unfiltered conversations with those who struggle with mental illness but refuse to let that get in the way of them achieving their dreams. Our hope is that by hearing their stories, you are inspired to do more. Here are their stories.
Anxious ambition.
Another episode of the Anxious Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Justin Allen, and today's podcast is going to be a little bit different than normal. I was actually invited to speak to the University of Dubuque chapter of Active Minds. Active Minds is a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping raising awareness in college and helping college students kind of deal with their mental health. It's a great organization. I was honored to be invited to speak with them, and basically they wanted me to come on, talk to them about anxious ambition a bit, but also answer a bunch of their questions about mental health. And these questions are coming from college students, so the young adults, what they're struggling with and what they can do to kind of help ease the pain and get through college. So I hope you guys enjoy the show.
So, okay. I have all the pre-submitted questions, so kind of a rundown of how this is going to go. Justin will kind of give an intro of himself. I'll go through the pre-submitted questions. And then if you have a question, feel free to write it down. I provided paper and pens up there if you want to take notes. Or you can just raise your hand as we go through. And then at the end of this, we will announce our giveaway winner. Justin's already got that information. I purposely did not enter so I could be unbiased with it. But I'm super excited for this. Justin coached my brother with club volleyball for a few years. So little did I know that he went to Clarke, as my brother told me a couple years in when I was talking about this. So he is a Clarke alum. He played volleyball
kind of.
Yeah,
we'll get into that.
But yeah, so just what a small world it is. But yeah, you can kind of talk about yourself and then we can go from there.
Sure. First, I just want to say thank you guys for having me. This is what you guys are doing over there it's incredible. When I did go to Clarke, not an alum for actually, we'll get there, but I spent 2 years there. So, I know all about Dubuque. I've been there. A little bit about me is, I deal with anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD. I can relate to things that maybe you guys are dealing with. And, I coached for a long time, and it kind of got me into wanting to help other people with, mental health. And, I started Anxious Ambition, which, if you guys don't know what it is, it's a brand. It started off as a brand, a clothing line, and we focused on, putting out messages that help people relate to you. And like this shirt I'm wearing right now, it says "You're not alone." The whole point is, if you see me wearing this shirt, whether you know about the brand or not, it kind of it's that little icebreaker. You need to start having those conversations around mental health. So whether it's your friends, family, a stranger on the street asks you about it, it kind of, it can be uncomfortable talking about our mental illnesses and some of the struggles we have, but it kind of, we got to end the stigma around it. So like, what better way to do it than kind of to start sparking conversations? And the kind of our message behind the brand is, the ambitious part. It's anxiety, depression could be crippling at times, but for me, I have an entrepreneurial spirit. I'm a dreamer. I've always been a dreamer, and I have these lofty goals for myself, and hopefully you do too. And through listening to our podcast and hearing other people's stories, the goal is that you guys can understand that you can definitely still do anything you want to do in life. There's no limitations just because you deal with anxiety or depression. I mean, yeah, it could be a hell of a lot harder, but it doesn't mean you have to give up on what you're working with and or what you're working on. And, it's just Anxious Ambition is to inspire you to break the stigma around mental health and keep chasing what you want to chase. So that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. Yeah. About the whole Clarke thing. That was totally my fault.
No. It's okay. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Cool. Are you ready to start then, or?
Yeah, whatever. Maybe get to the questions. Does anyone have any questions about like Anxious Ambition, like before we get started, or? Anything? Keep this like super like open. If you guys have questions at any time, like feel free to like just chime in.
Yeah.
So cool.
I also have a shirt on from Anxious Ambition. It says Ride the Wave. We also have
Cool.
discount codes up by the cookies up there for 15% off
Yes.
any order. So if you're interested, he's got a lot of really cool stuff up there. And as long as the backpack's launching, right? Is it tomorrow?
Yeah,
Friday.
Friday. So actually, so your guys' code will be good. It'll start Friday and honestly be good forever. So anyone that's in Active Vines, whether they're in your chapter or another one, it's good forever. Another thing too, I didn't really mention is that when you do purchase something from us, we donate a pretty decent portion of each order to NAMI, which is a National Alliance on Mental Illness. And basically what it does is if you're not familiar, they're an organization similar to yours that they have chapters around the world, and they help not only the individuals who are struggling with mental illness, but also the families that have to, struggle along with them and give them that type of support. So yeah, I'm ready to get into the questions whenever.
Yeah, so I just have these listed in the way they were submitted to me.
Cool.
So this question is from Grace, and she's a freshman. I know I've struggled with my mental health and the fact that I can be too hard and discouraging on myself. Is there any tips or exercises one can try to change his or her mindset of themselves?
Sure. So this is definitely something that's difficult. It's not, with depression, anxiety, they definitely cause a lot of crippling thoughts. But one thing I'll say, firstly, you can definitely do whatever you want to do in life. Just, because you deal with these struggles doesn't mean that has to be your limiting factor. So like that's first and foremost. Like if you're having a terrible day, it's okay to have a terrible day. But one thing that I've done in the past, just kind of thinking back, I was in like a really deep depression, think about like maybe 3 years ago. And I was, just thinking about like, you think you're worthless. You think you haven't done anything in life. You think, I'm not going to do anything going forward. And one thing I really like to do when I'm in these, deep, dark places is just take some time to reflect. So, make a list. Just, journaling is another thing we'll get into, but it's something it's a major factor in my mental health. And, taking a journal and just start writing down any accomplishment you can possibly think of. We've done so many things in our lives that we probably take for granted that even some people haven't done. And, what I mean by that is, we need to boost ourselves up. We're not worthless. You haven't done anything. Not that you haven't done anything significant. And I just have some examples here. I mean, you can write down something as easy as you graduated high school, you got into UD, you won the 5th grade spelling bee. I don't know, just anything, right? Anything that's of significance. Like for me, I passed Spanish class. That was hard. Clarke, I got a D. So it's just the little things that kind of help boost your confidence, because you got to remember where you came from and where you are now. So that's it. I mean, that's a hard one. I mean, having depression, anxiety, it definitely affects our mindset, but focusing on our goals, remember where we came from, and just focusing on, where we want to go.
And then
right. What else?
Next question
Yes.
is, what is your favorite self-care tip that you personally use when trying to prioritize your mental health?
Sure. The first thing that came to mind is meditation. Meditation is it can be a scary thing for people, because I think you instantly think of, you're sitting in silence for hours at a time, but it doesn't need to be like that. Meditation is something that, to me, it's just a form of reflection. So if you are stressed, anxious, and you need to, practicing self-care, it's super important. So I like to do meditation. It's the most introspective thing you can do. For me personally, if you find meditation kind of hard, you can do guided meditations, which you can find on YouTube, Spotify, anything like that. You basically just put on your headphones, lay down in bed, sit down, and just let that guide you through, certain scenarios. Maybe if you're dealing with depression, there's going to be some depression type meditations. And that's like the most simple way. But once you kind of get into it, the possibilities are endless. for me, even just before bed, people say they don't have time for meditation or self-care. It's BS. You have even that 5-10 minutes before you go to bed, sit there and just let your thoughts go. Let your, look inside, because when we're struggling, most of the time there's something deeply rooted in there. And, maybe we're suppressing it with, staying busy instead of taking time to kind of sit there and reflect. I mean, it can be hard to want to learn more about yourself, and meditation kind of forces you to do that. So meditation is definitely something that helps me the most. Kind of going back to just thinking about journaling is another great thing. Even if you're not a writer, it's just a great way to get your thoughts out of your head. So if you're having like a really hard day, just take it a couple minutes, just literally just word vomit anything that comes to your mind, just write it down and just look at it on the piece of paper, and it'll kind of help unscramble your brain a little bit. And I prefer, it definitely works better if you physically write. There's some science about it, that it could be a little bit more relieving than just kind of pulling up your phone and like in your notes section. Now it's better than nothing, but if you have access to pen and paper, which you guys should, your students, take some time, write stuff down. So those are my two favorite things to do.
And then what got you so passionate about mental health?
Sure. So the way I kind of took this question is, what made me so passionate about kind of speaking about mental health and kind of helping others. And it kind of honestly goes back to the coaching. So like Alyssa mentioned, I coached her brother, and I coached high school boys volleyball, like 17, 18-year-olds for about 6-7 years. And I've always been someone that's been open about my mental health, and just that alone has been helpful for me. But when I started noticing these kids in high school that, were dealing with these symptoms of anxiety, depression, and they had no idea what's going on. And I would just talk to them and explain to them my struggles. And it really sparked my interest, because the more people I talked to about it, one, and honestly, the better I felt about my mental health, but it also, you see others get more comfortable talking about it and being willing to get the help they may need. And, besides that, man, a major thing is definitely witnessing, I'm going to say witnessing, but seeing a lot of people just die of suicide. And, the truth of the matter is it's like the final symptom of, anxiety or depression mainly. And I just kept seeing, my cousin passed away when we were in high school. So I definitely didn't understand what was going on then, but then it was kind of a constant thing where it was like every year someone from high school or a friend of a friend passed away. And right before I started Anxious Ambition, which actually was 2 years ago yesterday, what was it? It was like a kid from high school passed away from suicide, and a friend of a friend passed away. And it was kind of just this thing of like, okay, I'm not trying to change the world, but I definitely think I can, get out there and at least even talk to one person about their mental health, that maybe it can, help them. So that's kind of been the two factors that's really sparked me to want to help people with their mental health.
And then what do you think is the most beneficial way of checking in with someone who you think is struggling?
Yeah, that's a tough question. I think the one thing is that you need to, if you know one of your, loved ones is struggling, I would say the first thing you want to do, instead of just offering advice, because, we've all been there. I'm sure all of you, sometimes you've got problems that, you're talking to your friends about, and you don't necessarily want advice. You just want someone to listen to you. So my advice would be, if it was my friend that I knew was struggling, what I would do is I would either, give them a call, send them a text, email, write them a letter, something that just explains to them that, firstly, you care about them, let them know you're there for them, and that, if they are struggling, you want to help them any way that you can. It's, when you're depressed, you may not be ready for help. And if you can just have a friend or a family member there to help you, maybe get the help you need. I know when I first had my first like doctor's appointment, I was struggling so much to make that appointment, but whether it was my mom or whoever it was, made that appointment for me because they knew I was struggling so much. So it's just having that little bit of support system. And I think just kind of keeping an open, conversation around, just be like, hey, whenever you're ready to talk about it, I'm here for you. If you don't want to physically talk about it, because it can be challenging, you can text me, you can email me, whatever you need, but I'm here for you. I think that's kind of the main thing, is just, and then also asking them how you can help, because I'm sure some of you that are dealing with anxiety, depression, we all cope differently. Maybe maybe you want to be, someone to hold your hand. Maybe you don't want anyone to touch you. Maybe you just want someone to give you some space. There's so many different ways that we all deal with this. And the more that we can just be open to, like, hey, however I can help, let me know. And just being open, and don't just kind of try to fix them. They're not looking for you to fix them, looking for you to just support them. So that would be my advice.
And how do you cope with your day-to-day stressors?
Yeah, that's I struggle with it as much as you guys do. Day to day, what I like to do, kind of go back to the journaling aspect. If I find myself being really, really stressed out about stuff and just overwhelmed, obviously there's more than one thing stressing me out. And it might be hard to kind of pinpoint. So what I like to do, again, take a journal, take a piece of paper, and just write down every single thing that's stressing you out. And the truth of the matter is, if one of those things, let's just say it's grades, maybe, or you're stressed out about grades, or not doing well in a class, maybe that's something, to me, you have the control to fix that. You can say, okay, how am I going to address this? A stress that we have more control over. But if your stress comes from something outside of you that you have zero control over, it's hard. It's better. It's easier said than done, but you can't let that be your stressors. If you can't control it, you got to let it go. You got to let it just be what it is. And there's no reason to stress over just like something you have no control over, right? It's just no reason to. And the one thing too, for me, dealing with my daily stressors, is honestly my faith. And for me, that doesn't mean it's religious. For me, it's not religious. But just having faith in, whether it's the universe, God, whatever it is, and just having faith that whatever is meant to be, and kind of go rolling with the whole everything happens for a reason thing, I think has helped me tremendously. Even if it's something like a small stressor, like, let's just say, I'm running late to work, and I get to my car and I forget my keys, and it's stressing you out. But if in the back of your head you have faith that everything is going to happen the way it should, then those little things kind of roll off your back. Maybe it's, you're driving to work after you forgot your keys, but hey, there's an accident on the side of the road. Maybe that's why you were late. So it's kind of, and maybe it wasn't, but it allows me to let just the little things not exactly affect me as much as it does affect some other people. Just having faith that everything's going to work out. And if you're practicing, manifestation, and, focusing on your goals, you just got to have faith that you'll get there. That's that.
And we're about halfway through the pre-submitted questions. Does anyone have anything so far? I just didn't want to go the entire time with that. Someone had like a burning question. Cool.
All right.
I'd ask, so we'll keep going then. And then how do you prevent being burned out from school, work, or other stressful things?
Yeah. So burnout, it definitely happens. And I think once unfortunately, once you think you're burnt out, you're definitely burnt out. Like I don't want to say it's too late, but you definitely need to take a break. You need to give yourself like mental health days, and that's okay. For me, just kind of try to prevent as much burnout as possible is being realistic with your workload, with work and school. Just perfect example, every day, I'm in sales for my day job. So there's always going to be work for me to do, whether it's, maybe I have, 20 proposals I need to do over the next 2 weeks. If I go into work and say, oh man, I got to do 20 of these, I don't, right? I need to get done. I got to get 5 done or 4 done. So what I like to do is when I get to work, maybe in the morning before I get to work, or even school for you guys, think of 3 to 5 things that you absolutely need to get done that day and make that your priority. You know, you probably have 20 things you could get done, but focus on getting those couple things done first. Get those done, and now you're done for the day, right? And if you get other things done, it's kind of just added bonus, right? Because once you kind of break down your stressors into obtainable things, I mean, if I said, "Oh my God, I got to get done 20 things a day," you're going to be so overwhelmed that you're not going to get any of it done. You're just going to be distracted. So that's kind of my thing. Is just find out what your limits are. You know, for me, it might be 5 things. For someone else, it might be 20. It might be 1. If you're depressed, maybe it's just, you know, you got to just do 2 things that day. You know, that's just know your limits. And when you do feel burnt out, don't be afraid to maybe take a day off and just relax. You know, take some time to meditate. I think meditation is another thing. Reflect on, you know, why is this so overwhelming? How can I, you know, lessen the stress? And just know your limits. I think that's the main thing, is that everyone's different. You know, I've got, you know, people at work that they're go, go, go. And, you know, maybe they can handle a little bit more workload than me, or, you know, vice versa. Everybody's different. So don't compare yourself to someone else. Just know your limits and stick to it.
And then what are the best ways to keep a positive attitude when your mental health is in a difficult place?
Yeah. Honestly, this kind of comes back to the like kind of the first question. They're kind of similar, where you got to remember where you're coming from, you know, where you came from. And again, it goes back. The main thing I've written down here is all about the faith again. Having faith that what's happening is for a reason. You know, for me, I still deal with anxiety, depression, you know, sometimes, you know, some terrible depression. And if it wasn't for that, you know, I wouldn't be doing this today. Right. It all leads to something. There's always a positive outlook. It's kind of going to take you to where you're supposed to be. So it kind of goes back to the faith thing. Have faith in your journey and where you want to go, and just kind of not sweat all the negative things, because maybe it's leading to something bigger and better.
And then what was one of your biggest stressors you dealt with as a student athlete, and what helped you overcome it?
Okay. So this kind of brings me back to Clarke. So honestly, I was a student athlete. I went to Clarke in 2009. So I was there from 2009 to 2010, the freshman year, sophomore year. And I didn't cope well with being a student athlete. You know, I'm not going to bullshit you guys. But, you know, because I came from, you know, I felt like I was one of the better players in my high school. And you go to college where, you know, you start from the bottom, and I struggled hard. I wasn't getting playing time. I was injured all the time. My knees were kind of going out, and I spent a lot of time in the training room. So it was tough. Honestly, I spent a lot of time just drinking, smoking, you know, smoking cigarettes, weed, whatever it was. I was just trying to distract myself from everything. And it's college. Like, I know, you know, that stuff's going to happen, but leaning on it as a crutch was not something that was best for me. So as far as how to cope with it, honestly, I'm going to tell you what I did. And it was not the right way to do things. In 2 years, I was done with Clarke. Balancing school with athletics was extremely hard for me. It was, you know, if you missed 2 classes, you failed, and it was tough. And it was tough on me. And eventually, I decided to leave after my sophomore year. I was already deciding to leave, and how I coped with it, honestly, I just left the situation. And I wouldn't say I was running away from anything, but it just wasn't for me. So, and eventually, like I said, I was already planning on leaving. I was going to go to Eastern Illinois just to kind of pursue school. And I actually got kicked out of Clarke. And I don't know if you guys know about Clarke, but they're a strict school. They're strict. So like, I got caught drinking twice, instantly 2 write-ups. And then I got caught smoking, and then it was like 3, and then you're gone. So I was already leaving. So it was kind of like the final straw. And yeah, I would say, man, it's hard to give advice when that's, but I just want to tell you guys the truth, you know, where I've come from, where I've been. And if you're a student athlete, I respect it. And I know it's a lot. And I always tell people, especially like my athletes, like I've had many athletes do the same thing I did, and maybe not get kicked out of school, but go to school and realize it's not for them, playing sports, and they left and went and did something else. So I guess the point I'm trying to make is also, I'm not telling you guys to leave UD. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if for some reason being a student athlete is too much for you, that's okay. You know, one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make was leaving Clarke. It was probably the first decision I made on my own, was to leave. My parents didn't know. My parents wouldn't have let me leave. What I did is I honestly borrowed money from my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, the $40 or whatever it was to do the application, and I left the school. And yeah, it's a tough one, but being a student athlete is hard. And if I had something like anxious or active minds, who knows what would happen? I mean, I didn't have any support for my mental health. It was just my friends who were just a bunch of knuckleheads. You know, they didn't understand. So, I mean, honestly, like people like you and this group is going to help other people really get through some of the struggles of being a student athlete and just being a student in general. So, I know it's kind of long-winded, but that's my answer.
Thank you. Yeah. And then what was your breakthrough moment that made you realize you need to take it? Oh my gosh, sorry. What was your breakthrough moment that made you realize you needed to take that step to seek help?
Sure. So anxiety, depression, all that stuff's always been a kind of a part of my life, going back to, you know, just giving a little backstory. Before I actually went to Clarke, I was 18, and, you know, you go get your shots before school. And, you know, I mentioned to the doctor that, you know, I'm having these anxious thoughts. I'm having these, you know, stomach issues, and, you know, just not feeling myself. You know, I was in there for 5 minutes, and I walked out of there with a prescription, and kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, to be honest, about just how the system works. You know, you go in there and you're like, I mean, literally, even if you're not depressed, you can walk in there and say, hey, I'm depressed, and they're going to give you medication. And nothing wrong with medication. I've been on it for years, but it's just, when I went to Clarke, I didn't totally understand it. And so I was on the medication for a little bit, and then just stopped and just like drank, smoked, things like that. Fast forward to, and I kind of just numbed it all up until I graduated. So it was probably 5-6 years ago, and I was in the working world, and I started having panic attacks at work. You know, I wasn't masking anything. I wasn't smoking. I wasn't drinking. And all the anxiety and depression kind of came forefront. And I remember being at work one day, and I had a panic attack, and it just kept happening. And so then that's when it started snowballing, where, and I'm sure some of you guys can relate. You have that first panic attack, and you kind of get a little bit of like PTSD about it. And then I started getting anxious to go to work, just even thinking about going to work. And then I had a panic attack at a grocery store, and it just kind of kept going and going. And it was like, holy shit, like I can't function like this. And that was kind of the moment where I had to like go to the doctor. I went and saw a psychiatrist, which I would recommend doing over like your general physician. Not that there aren't great, you know, GPs that can help with your mental health, but that's not what they're studying. So I went to a psychiatrist, you know, got me on the right path. And it's been better ever since, just actually taking that first step. But I was at that point where I couldn't function. And that's how you kind of, you know, everyone deals with anxiety on a daily basis. It's a natural thing. But when it becomes debilitating, that's when I feel like you really need to go get help. And for me, that's what it was. And honestly, for, you know, psychiatry and therapy were some of the most profound things for me that helped me, you know, get to where I am today. So that was it.
And then this is the last question that has been pre-asked, but what has been your favorite part of your time since starting Anxious Ambition?
Yeah. Honestly, it's been interacting with like people like you guys. It's been the DMs, the comments, it's just the community that's been built with Anxious Ambition. I get messages all the time. It's just like, hey, thank you for posting that. I really needed that today. And like that alone is just makes everything worth it. It's been, my family opening up about mental health. Like today I saw my dad, he was wearing like the Ride the Wave shirt that Alyssa has, and he didn't even know he was going to see me today. And it's just like being able to be a part of this mental health, advocate, just boom, where, it's becoming mainstream where we can actually talk about mental health a little more openly. And that's been my favorite part. And also just kind of recording the podcast, meeting these amazing people who, are dealing with some similar things, but are also on completely different paths, pursuing their dreams. And it's just amazing to meet people like you guys that are, honestly, you guys are ahead of the game. Thinking about and talking about this stuff in college is incredible. It took me until I was almost 30 to start the channel and all this stuff, but getting ahead of it in college where you guys are under immense pressure is incredible. So that's it. That's what I got.
Does anyone have anything else? I have a question, but
Go ahead. Yeah.
Kind of touched on this
Mhm.
about coaching. I know a lot of us are either working with people who are in their teens, as well as like early college. Like, what do you think is the best way to like kind of not like get on their level, but like when you're in that higher up position, like how did you navigate like being able to talk to them if you could see they were going through?
Yeah. It's definitely tough. That's a good question. You're stumping me on that one. It's identify with them. Let's be honest. Like I'm not part of this like TikTok generation, like all you guys, right? But I can relate to things that you guys are doing, whether, you can see through kind of the social media differences and things like that. And I think what you need, like for me, what it was is once you find something you can relate with, try to find something to relate with. Like, I don't know, whatever, if your brother's gonna want me talking, but like your brother, right? So Alyssa's brother, like me and him have had talks about mental health. And, we talked about just little things like cars and working out and things like that. And it's like, once you create that relationship, no matter how old you are, we all have different struggles that are similar, and it's kind of, once you create that comfortable environment, I feel like people are, easier to talk to and they're more to open up. So it's just kind of being open and don't try to be like an asshole about it. Like, don't try to be a fatherly figure. Like just be their friend and let them know that they can tell you anything, because it's totally cool. Like I think one thing too that made me think of is I'm super open about myself. So if you're open about your struggles and tell them what you deal with, they can relate to that too. So like I remember telling, someone like, hey, I deal with this and this for my anxiety. And they're like, oh my God, like that's anxiety. I thought I was just nervous, or, so and so. So I think part of being in a higher position is using those opportunities to educate them on, what they're dealing with and why it is anxiety or whatever it is. So it's a tough question. It's definitely hard, but I think once you kind of can relate to them and get them to just open up, it's your best bet. Your best bet.
Thank you.
I hope that was helpful.
No, that was good. You answered it perfectly. But yeah, I don't know. Anything?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got a question.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can. Yeah, I can.
Okay.
I don't know how, but I can.
Yeah. We're super fortunate on campus. We have therapy services, but I know that some of these students are graduating and going to enter the real world where they don't have that provided for them. Do you have any suggestions or can speak on your experience about like finding the right therapist for you or right psychiatrist, or how you found yours?
Sure. Yeah. So that's a great question. And I think just bringing up therapy, I think that the first thing people think of is like, oh, I can't afford therapy, right? It's expensive. Most therapists have a sliding scale, or there are therapists out there that have a sliding scale. So what that means is, for me, when I first went to therapy, like I didn't have money. So the $160 sessions where it wasn't going to happen and they want you to come weekly, right? That's a shitload of money. So like for me, I found a therapist that, would charge me 20, $30 to come talk to her. And it was a great experience, but I met her because she was actually the officiant of my wedding. Oddly enough, she was a guidance counselor at a high school. So we kind of just got to talking about it. And I think the main thing with therapy is you need to be comfortable with the person. So obviously like finding that person can be tough. So what I would suggest doing is try to find a like-minded person, who does talk about therapy. Like let's say, you got a buddy at work or something that goes to therapy. Maybe that would be the therapist to go to because you guys kind of have the same vibe and things like that. So there's always options. I will say I also did try the like BetterHelp online services, like that type of thing. I don't want to knock it, but it's definitely not the same as like actually sitting and having a conversation with an actual therapist. Because for me, it was just kind of like you like email them and they email you back. Like there was no physical human interaction. So like, yeah, that's what I would suggest. Find someone, look up people's reviews, and if you go to a therapist and you don't connect at all, that doesn't mean therapy doesn't work. It just means you don't work with that person. Just like anything, like coaches, doctors, you have to have a therapist is like one of the most intimate relationships you're going to have in your life. You're going to you can tell your therapist more things that you're probably even going to tell your wife, your family, because they're completely unbiased. You can tell them anything without feeling bad for it. Right. That's what I would say. And then also if money's an issue, I mean, getting out of college, you guys are going to be broke more than likely. So, counselors, if you guys are religious, I'm sure the church offers something. Honestly, if you need someone to talk to too, just reach out to me. I'm totally cool with talking to you guys. Happy to help you find a therapist. I know what it was like. For years I didn't want to do therapy, but I finally got lucky and found someone I connected with. So I would say just try to reach out, find someone you connect with, ask your friends, ask your family, and you'll find one.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah.
Good question.
That was a great question.
Anything else before we wrap it up? Well, as most of you know, we did do a giveaway.
Yes.
So we had a backpack and hoodie. So it was essentially all these questions for the most part, whoever asked them, it was part of the giveaway. So I did that about an hour ago and I sent it to Justin. So I thought he could have
Yes.
to announce that.
Is this person there, Alyssa?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't want to butcher their last name. So the winner is Beth T. Congratulations, Beth. Hey, Beth, feel free to just shoot us a DM on the Anxious Ambition Instagram. We'll get it all figured out. Get you picked out, whatever you want, and we'll get it sent out to you. Like I mentioned before, all of you guys and anyone feel free to share that discount code with anyone. It's not, it'll be active forever. It's 15% off. Just type in Active Minds when you go to checkout. I think it's all lower caps is what we decided. Is that right, Alyssa?
Yes.
Okay, so all lowercase. That'll be valid on Friday, and then it's good for forever. I know, like this isn't like a sales thing. It's just like I know college people. I was in college. I was broke as shit. So like any discount helps. I first of all, I just want to say thank you guys for what your guys are doing. I would have loved to have something like this when I was in school. And I guess we may have, but it wasn't. I didn't know about it. No one knew about it. And just the size of the people that are here right now is incredible. I know UD is not that big. So again, it's impressive. And I just want to say that you guys are doing amazing things over there. So
Yeah. Thank you for, yeah. Thanks for your time. We,
of course.
a long process. We tried doing this last year and it just ended up getting too congested. So I'm very thankful that you were able to do this for us.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you guys having me. Again, if you guys have any questions for me, just personally, or just kind of need some guidance to kind of help you push you in the right direction, feel free to, message me on Instagram, and I'd be happy to help you as much as I can. I'm not a professional in any way, but I will do the best I can.
Those backpacks that you're launching Friday are really cool. And Beth, I happened to win one, but you're also giving one away on your Instagram.
Correct. Yeah, that ends Friday. All you have to do is go on the Instagram page and just comment and tag someone that you're grateful for. Tell them why you're grateful for them, and then just like the page and follow us, and you're entered to win. And we'll announce another winner on Friday. So,
Cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Anxious Ambition podcast. You can find us on all podcast platforms. Follow us on Instagram at Anxious Ambition. You can actually watch this podcast over on YouTube. Lastly, check out our website, anxiousambition.com, where we have all of our merch, and a portion of every sale is donated to NAMI, and it helps support the individuals and their families who are suffering from mental illness. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take it easy.
Anxious. Ambition.